Explained by the Billy Meier Contacts. Mysteries, myths, legends, conspiracy theories, historical inaccuracies, and more. Compiled by David Chance, revised October 18, 2023.
Calvert, Texas alien bases. Contact Report 050.
Are there alien bases under Calvert or Cal West, Texas, and under the mountains near Salzburg and in Lake Constance? Naughty. The Salzburg reference may be related to a case from June 7, 1954, reported in the book Flying Saucers Uncensored by Harold T. Wilkins, in which 3 German tourists went missing in the Lamprecht Cave near Lofer in the Salzburg mountain region of Austria. The Lake Constance reference may be related to reports of strange phenomenon in that area, later mentioned in such books as Best UFO Cases, Europe by Illebrand von Ludwiger, and Humanoid Encounters 1975, to 1979 by Alberts Rosales.
None of the 3 places mentioned.
But it is said that extraterrestrials have a base there, especially under the mountains.
That is not so, however. All stations on the Earth are known to us. There is absolutely no doubt about that. So it is a certainty when I explain to you that there are no extraterrestrial bases, etc., underneath the mountain.
It has always been claimed that something of this form is there.
But that is not really the case. On the other hand, however, this may be connected with another station hidden there, namely, that of a group of Earthlings who had secretly built a base there during the Second World War, deep in the cliffs where they could live and work. It was one of those groups that got their hands on plans by which they were able to produce beamship-like flying objects. Note Sifu fighters. Cattle mutilations. Contact Report 231.
There are many irresponsible freeloaders who make big deals and immense profits with the UFO believers because they are cheated and financially exploited by the liars, swindlers as well as charlatans. This is how many people appear who knowingly and fraudulently claim to be in direct or telepathic contact with extraterrestrials, believing that the innocent are in full swindle. On the other hand, your truthful contacts with us are vehemently denied by know-it-alls and opponents, enviers, autocrats, image addicts, sectarians, etc., and you are portrayed as a liar and a fraud despite all the irrefutable evidence you can produce. Evidence that no alleged contact person can produce. But all this will intensify in the time to come, with the UFO believers running after all the contact swindlers without hesitation, courting them and going astray. Increasingly, many will claim through lies and deceit that they are in personal or telepathic contact with Simyase, with Ptah, with me, or with others of our races, as well as with higher spirit forms of our planes, in personal or telepathic, as well as channeling contact. But everything will only be lies, deceit, and dizziness, because no human being on the earth apart from you will be able to come into any kind of contact with us, just as we will only be able to come into contact with you for which you know the reasons. Nevertheless, in the next few years, a contactee psychosis will spread across the earth, as well as a true extraterrestrial delusion and a kidnapping delusion by extraterrestrials will appear in relation to belief in all imaginable and unimaginable extraterrestrials. Thereby, through the extraterrestrial fairy tale, will create a financial violent business that will far exceed the previous one and will be coupled with esotericism and parapsychology. This will benefit the secret plans of the countries which are doing their mischief with the flying discs, which is why they are very diligent in their machinations, which they then ascribe to aliens through their information channels. For example, certain machinations with crop circles, animal massacres and alleged abductions and harm, etc. by alleged aliens. in which all sorts of pretenses are made by hypnosis, and even foreign bodies are implanted in the abducted, etc. Thus all possible and impossible aliens are invented, so that the secret plans and machinations can be carried out unchallenged, whereby, however, also the fear of aliens is stirred up and driven up. So it is a fact that since 1945, when the plans of the air disc technology fell into the hands of the Americans, Russians and English, with few exceptions, the whole earthly mankind is lied to and deceived, and to it every means is right, also alleged activities of extraterrestrials. And all those fools, irresponsible, criminals, deceivers, liars and swindlers, etc., in matters of alleged contacts with extraterrestrials, spirits, dead and higher beings, are co-responsible for the fact that the secret machinations can be promoted in relation to the flying discs, because with their lies and deceits, they promote everything still.
Contact Report 246.
In addition, however, cows and cattle are also said to have been outrageously massacred by the little greys, and namely also by the thousands and millions, whereby the beasts were allegedly also missing various organs, and at the same time mysterious things are said to have occurred too.
With regard to the allegedly massacred animals, it must be said that this is just as much unbelievable nonsense as the alleged pregnancies in American women caused by the little greys. The massacred animals are also purely Earth-human machinations for the purpose of scaremongering and misleading all those who are incompetent in the matter of UFO matters, spirits and extraterrestrials, and simply believe all nonsense unthinkingly if they are extraterrestrials and their flying machines or ghosts or religious appearances and other imaginations, etc. In some cases, however, no terrestrial humans are involved in such events, but predators who tear and mutilate the cattle.
Contact Report 249.
But it is also constantly claimed that the evil extraterrestrials also massacre animals, for example cattle.
Also, this assertion is based on slanderous assumptions of some lunatics as well as on quite conscious lies and deceptions. If massacred animals are found, especially in the USA and South America, this can be traced back to completely natural causes, namely beating and tearing as well as the feeding of birds of prey or predators. Various species of vermin also play an important role, including mutant species. Even certain irresponsible people massacre animals for testing purposes or to stir up fear of aliens, etc.
Contact Report 251.
We were just talking about those who had played an important role up to that point, namely the three groups that we had discussed in one of our last conversations. In addition to these, there are a few other groups of extraterrestrial origin that fly to Earth and can be observed here more often, but none of which is in contact with any Earth humans, neither on a private nor on a military or governmental basis. Some of them come to Earth purely for excursions or expeditions. Others have other interests, but none in the way that the hysterical Americans portray this with the impregnation of Earth women by Earth alien intelligences or the impregnation of Earth alien women by men of Earth. The nonsense about massacring animals, etc., etc., can also be forgotten, for such things do not apply either.
Contact Report 257. The nasty machinations of the government, military and Secret Service people in respect of the demonizing of extraterrestrials have increased ever more since 1938, indeed slowly and successively. Thus, however, all the more incessantly and expansively, until in the 80s. Essentially, the greatest machination for the bedevilment of extraterrestrials began through a shifty structure in the fashion of the Secret Service, as well as miscellaneous UFO, and extraterrestrial enemies. Stories came about like the ghastly human and animal mutilations, the theft of human babies, and the impregnating of terrestrial women through foreign visitors out of outer space. Horror stories were also disseminated about subterranean laboratories and the inhuman experiments taking place there. Were that still not enough? Because the angst of the extraterrestrials wreaked even worse blooms. Like, for example, it would be asserted that women impregnated by aliens would, after some months, have the baby growing in the womb snatched out to be allowed to finally grow further in a fluid-filled incubator, etc., in order to breed up a new humanity, etc., using these hybrid children. A further horror story was that the Earth humans would be abducted in order to take their genetic material that would be necessary for the extraterrestrials' further breeding of humans, who would serve as, so to say, nourishment providers, because the evil foreigners out of the depths of outer space supposedly nourished themselves on human blood. Similarly, it would also be asserted in respect to the animal mutilations in America, whereby the related far-fetched feeble-mindedness, that namely beef blood demonstrates a genetic relationship with human blood. Therefore the mutilated cattle would have their blood sucked out to store in the blood banks for crisis times, naturally through the evil extraterrestrials. Yet even that is not enough, because still many other assertions, slanderings and lies, and clearly to be recognized as feeble-minded, are put about, through which the humans are led into error and would be shifted into angst and terror. As has had manifold success, and certain mass hysteria has been released by a worldwide group of certain Earth humans, which also leads to feelings of hate, etc. Contact Report 358.
Regarding the luminous objects that light up, seem to hang in the air, seem to divide into several objects, move away from each other, approach each other again, and merge again. The following can be explained. All the observers and witnesses of such sightings are deceived, because they are in no way extraterrestrial flying apparatuses or UFOs, as terrestrial people call the objects, which can be seen especially in many places in the USA and all over the world. The secret machinations of the responsible authorities and offices in the U.S. America are responsible for these appearances of these light objects, but this is to remain secret not only for the American, but for the whole world population. To the secret machinations in this regard belong also still various others, which are to point out actions of extraterrestrials, like, for example, the alleged kidnappings of Earth people as well as the massacring of cattle, etc., by alleged extraterrestrial beings. The fact that hypnosis is also used for allegedly affected people, as it was the case with the fraudulent moon landing in 1969, should be absolutely clear for every reasonable person.
Contact Report 441.
Around 22 years have now passed since you and Ketzel told me privately that you had comprehensive cognitions in regard to terrestrial UFOs and the massacre of animals and alleged abductions which were disguised as the shoddy efforts of extraterrestrials. You said thereby that, in regard to this, involved in these machinations are governments, the military, as well as industrial businesses and powerful ones of finance, which constitute a special group, to which still smaller groups are also related. At that time you promised that you would officially explain more about that when the time is ripe for that. Can one now speak publicly about that?
With the named group, it concerns a worldwide branching from governments, the military, industrial groups, secret services, paramilitary, and powerful ones of finance, as you correctly said. Those in the know and contributors are only certain elements of the same, who profit greatly, financially and power politically, from their secret machinations, for which reason the entire powers of the government, military and industrial, as well as finance, are not involved in the situation and are also not informed in regard to this. The group is not organized. As such, rather is only a loose collection, whereby their interests, however, have a common form, which, already since the 1920s, was designed to operate a continuous, ingenious, large-scale disinformation campaign regarding the question of extraterrestrial life. The group, which is split into many small groups, has many kinds of technical possibilities at their disposal, which they employ for their evil and human misleading purposes. That started with technologies of electromagnetism to do with precision electronics and computer engineering, up to and including apparatuses through which brainwashing and the programming and altering of consciousness is evoked in humans. They even have back-engineered beamships at their disposal, whereby, in certain contexts, even anti-gravity finds application. It has also occurred many times that premeditated abductions of Earth humans by extraterrestrials and the massacre of animals has been and is faked by this group. That stands partly also in connection with those illusionary and schizophrenic visions and apparent experiences of those who believe that they have had or have these kinds of real experiences. Also, wrong information and falsified pictures of alleged extraterrestrial flying devices is strategically circulated worldwide, whereby, according to our investigations, about 98% of all false pictures, films, videos, and false information is directed at moving the Earth humans to angst and terror of extraterrestrials and to engender hate and thoughts of revenge in the Earth humans. Therefore, in this way, angst, terror, and hate is stirred up against all life foreign to Earth. Especially films for cinema and television serve this purpose, as also, however, do many books which are constructed on lies and untruths and are written partly by experts in psychology and psychiatry. All this nonsense sells very well to the Earth humans because many on the search for the effective truth trust and believe this false information and these films and pictures. Angst, horror, terror, hate, and revenge always sell well, while the truth appears too banal and therefore appears uninteresting as well as not worth knowing. Only the fantastic and unreal find a place in the interests of Earth humans. However, precisely that is the launching platform for the infamous machinations of the worldwide group, because through disinformation and fear-mongering in regard to the malicious foreigners to Earth, the entire group, which reaches right around the world, derives horrendous advantages of a financial, governmental power, military power, as well as an economic form. The entire war, electronics, and weapons industries and so forth thereby gain an enormous boost. Yet, in the worldwide group, secret paramilitary units also exist as smaller groups which carry out the same kind of operations which, however, are mostly controlled by the worldwide group. In particular, these small groups carry out premeditated abductions which are credited ostensibly to the extraterrestrials, as well as, however, also simulated appearances of alleged extraterrestrial flying craft, which are then collectively declared to be extraterrestrial UFO appearances and are often observed, photographed, and filmed by many people. Thereby, the illusion of an ostensible extraterrestrial abduction or observation of extraterrestrial flying devices is evoked. What is further to say about that is that, in this worldwide group, with all the small groups who partly also work autonomously, there exists a proper UFO trade and a subculture in regard to animal massacres and abductions and so forth. The entire thing is secretively financed through governments, the military, Industrial groups and financially powerful ones who are interested in angst, terror, and hate being stirred up to their highest forms in regard to the alleged evil extraterrestrial foreigners, because they can thereby gain gigantic financial profit and advantage. It is on this basis that, in every regard, from this group, only stories, cinema and television films and observations of UFOs will be accepted and profitably exploited, which are based on everything negative and, as is becoming proverbial with the Earth humans, on the malicious and aggressive nature of the extraterrestrials. Only that which evokes angst, fear, and terror as well as engenders hate and revenge is accepted by the group and exploited worldwide in order to obtain enormous profit with it. Conversely, in addition to that, everything which is good and positive is vehemently slandered and is designated as a swindle, lie, and deception, as is the case with you and us, since, in keeping with the interests of the group, we are not permitted to exist, and you are not permitted to be in contact with us. Rather, you must be a liar and a fraud. So, from the group and their small groups, the Earth humans will be served up deliberately false and fear-influencing stories in regard to extraterrestrial UFOs and foreigners to Earth and their alleged horrifying machinations like, for example, painful examination contacts and animal massacres, along with falsified encounters with alleged extraterrestrials. Along with profit, the whole matter also serves deeply based psychological propaganda in order to insult forms of life who are foreign to Earth and to brand them as malicious beings and to create angst, hate, revenge, and hysteria because great financial means will be thereby freed up which serve research for the production of innovative and futuristic weapons of all kinds. Therefore, in these Earth humans, in regard to the extraterrestrial, an enemy will be psychologically, deliberately created which does not exist and which will, in a manner, be made into a malicious being such that the Earth humans, in their angst, will be driven to freeing up horrendous sums in order to therewith manufacture weapons against the alleged malicious invaders. Also, with these acts, various groups play off against each other, which, however, is part of a well-thought-out plan which is carried out and implemented by secret services, psychoterrorists, espionage groups, and treacherous disinformation agents, and which is underpinned by false information regarding UFOs and alleged extraterrestrials. Additionally, belonging to this plan is the invention of an imaginary extraterrestrial enemy, as well as a danger emerging from this. An enemy and a danger which, naturally, will have to be fought. The infamy is thereby that, first of all, everything is made ridiculous because the concerned abductees, examinees, chance contactees, and UFO observers can provide no evidence for their experiences which would withstand a real examination. Then comes the second fact, which exists in the fact that angst, terror, hate, and feelings of revenge is produced in the Earth humans, whereby then the weapons industry can be built up, and indeed, especially in regard to futuristic weapons, of which the normal Earth humans have no idea and of which they do not ever dare to dream. The entirety is thereby a well-thought-out psychological network on which the progress of the entire weapons industry and the power of the military, of the federal leadership, the finance sharks, and the industry businesses, as well as the secret services, can be built up ever further. To this end, angst, terror, hysteria, hate, and revenge is sown in regard to all foreigners from outer space. So the Earth humans become duped and financially exploited by the responsible ones of this dangerous group and their small groups, and are deliberately driven to abhor and to hate the extraterrestrial foreigners. Corresponding cinema and television films serve as especially suitable means for that. the foreigner angst. Respectively, alien angst, which is thereby produced, surpasses all normal angst, and the responsible ones of the group know that precisely, for which reason they can also thereby calculate that all necessary finances flow to them, which they require for their weapon research, their weapon manufacture, their leading of wars, and desires for power, as well as for unrealistic cinema and TV films which demonize the Earth strangers. The creation of a supposed threat from extraterrestrials as well as the alien angst is, for them, a profitable matter which is operated under the shabby cloak of a federal, respectively, country security and of world peace. For the entire machinations of the group, the meanest machinations are quite good enough, which, as said, were already operating since the 1920s, and to that also belong highly developed electronic weapons systems, futuristic flying discs, Earth humans who are hypnotically and surgically converted, as well as converted in their consciousness, to robots, whereby some have an appearance like the being which is called the Little Gray. On one hand, there is the dim-witted paradox that the extraterrestrial flying devices are denied, and the strangers to Earth are made ridiculous or made out to be monsters by means of psychological propaganda, while, on the other hand, the financial exploitation of the peoples results through the inciting of angst, terror, hate, and revenge, and indeed thereby in that a simulation results in regard to a supposed threat from extraterrestrials. A paradox without compare, to which the question must be put, how far are the Earth humans imbued with reason and understanding that they do not recognize this paradox? The entire prearranged game of the group and their small groups, as already said elsewhere, also includes faked encounters with alleged extraterrestrials, whereby these are truly nothing other than normal Earth humans or those who have been transformed into aliens. In order then to affirm the improvised encounters, with those foreign to Earth psychologists and other, experts are pulled in into whom the wildest stories are hammered for so long until they believe the entire swindle and nonsense, and employ verifiable and genuine analyses which are recorded and published in books and documentation, as well as in cinema and TV films. And since, as a rule, the supposed extraterrestrials are described as horrible villains, just according to the plan of the group and their small groups, the picture of the extraterrestrial threat is powerfully incited. Thereby, not only is the slandering in regard to the real strangers to Earth always more exaggerated, as also more and more finances flow into the cash box of those who stupidly and dim-wittedly earn as a result of the entire tissue of lies and slander, and thereby come by the means to reach their criminal goals. A certain part of the group has also fallen to a Christian sectarianism, and to the supposed end times in such a way that hope is directed at a malicious invasion of extraterrestrials resulting on Earth, and thereby the prophesied Armageddon will become reality in which Jesus Christ celebrates his official return and God the Father will exercise his judgment. Their delusion is therefore bound with a biblical end of the world, which, as they believe, rests on the terrible badness of the Earth humans. And in order to accelerate this divine judgment as well as the return of Christ, they do everything in order to make the way free for that. The monstrous power of the worldwide group and their small groups, as well as the religious fanaticism, together with the cultic maintaining of the secret of the entire underhanded, degenerated, and deceptive, as well as criminal and felonious machinations, lead to malignant effects which could not be worse. These are the facts which I have to name in regard to your question.